welcome back to Well, That's Interesting, the What's in the Box edition. Today is episode 288. Let's talk about a giant stone jar containing the remains of 37 people and a box that kept pig eyeballs working for 10 hours after death. My friends, I know every week you eagerly anticipate the notification alerting you to every new episode and that a part of that joy is reading the topics. Well, I have a feeling you didn't see anything like this coming, even if you're a longtime listener of the show. Even I'm like, damn, this feels like a bit much. But in proper WTI fashion, once we move beyond the uncomfortable headlines, we will find ourselves awash in fantastic possibilities and drowning in cultures we may never knew existed, thanks to what the people left behind. For example, just a smidge ago, during episode 285, we found ourselves above the clouds in the Peruvian Andes and floating above what's been dubbed Monte Sirpe, or Serpent Mountain. At this height, for approximately a mile, we saw a band of 5,200 aligned depressions, or holes, dotting the very top of Pisco Valley. For a century, their purpose and their makers were a mystery, until an ingenious team, packing drones and molecular technology, uncovered tantalizing clues. If you haven't had a listen, I won't give anything away here, but the answer may put every farmer's market you've been to shame. Today, in the first half of the show, we're heading to another part of the world that just so happens to have a pockmarked mystery of its own. Throughout northern Laos, approximately 2,100 stone jars have been uncovered by archaeological nerds since the 1930s. And if you think that number is high, just wait until you hear about the variety of sizes they come in and the variety of the contents inside. On average, these jars stand between 3 to 5 feet tall, with average diameters measuring around 3.5 feet. The largest vessels, though, they reach heights of up to 9 feet, with equally massive circumferences and weigh up to 14 to 30 tons of stone. Their shape is cylindrical, with the bottom always wider than the top. And I bet you want to know what's inside them. Well, you're not alone. So did Madeline Kolani, whose official portrait on her wiki is giving a look like, excuse me, sir, please don't mansplain history to me because I am a geologist, paleobotanist, archaeologist, and ethnographer, but you're going to anyway, aren't you? Yeah. I highly recommend ignoring any man around you by picking up your phone and heading on over to today's post on the socials. I'll have her portrait there. You're welcome. Moving on. In 1935, she became one of the first Westerners to investigate these structures, whose purpose and creators have also been lost to time. She poked her head into 21 holes, and within the black organic soil, there was everything from ear discs, glass beads, bronze and iron tools, knives, jewelry, and spindle whorls, which, if you imagine a disc with a stick through it, you've got yourself an ancient flywheel that humans have been using for 12,000 years to unravel fabrics like wool to sew into clothing. One might think these jars were used for storage, until you dug a little deeper. Madeline also discovered burnt teeth and bone fragments. Since this expedition and the late 1930s, a few things happened in the area, like World War II, the Laotian Civil War, and the Vietnam War. Needless to say, it became a dangerous place for nerds pining to understand these jars. They would just have to wait. Well, I'm finally revealed to say the wait is over, thanks to a 2-year investigation by an international team of archaeologists led by James Cook University in Australia and the Lao Department of Heritage. In a remote forest about 70 kilometers or 43 miles northeast of Madeline's historic dig, these badass archaeologists found the largest jar yet. We will poke our own heads inside. We will measure this behemoth. We will remove hundreds of pounds of dirt to reveal more than what any of them could have bargained for. Quote, after almost 100 years of speculation, this is the first of these stone jars to be investigated with irrefutable association with mortuary behavior, end quote. Nigel Chang, an archaeologist at James Cook University who wasn't involved in the research, said to New Scientist Chris Sims. Oh, yes. We will be digging up these theories as to what these mortuary behaviors were, and our jaws will drop at the results from carbon dating, which reveal how long these practices went on for. Then after the break, we're leaving the jars of Laos forests for a very special 3D printed box from a team at the Barcelona Institute of Science and Technology in Spain. Look, I'm not going to pull a 7 on you. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what's inside. Pig eyeballs. Okay, I lied a little bit. At first, there's pig eyeballs, but then there's going to be human eyeballs. Hey, stick with me. Stick with me. Don't you skip ahead to the jars. I see where your hands are, and I'm upset. Stick with me. My friends, as reported by Tom Leslie of IFL Science, quote, a transplant of a working eye has never before been achieved in humans, despite our success with other organs, including the heart, lungs, and kidneys. One reason for this is that the retina, the tissue at the back of the eye that converts light into signals that can be transmitted to the brain, has a delicate structure that is extremely vulnerable, even to temporary losses of oxygen, end quote. This team from Barcelona wants to change all that and make surgical history with the help of a completely new device called Eyes in a Care Box. Yeah, we're going to meet this box. We will hold our breath and courageously look inside to understand how it works and how it could restore vision in an untold number of survivors who want their sight back. We will rub our own eyes in amazement as we look upon the 2 experiments the team performed and how the eyes inside this box responded to light signals hours after being donated, aka separated from a brain. This is a big step towards successful working eye transplants. In the meantime, hi, I'm Jill Chacha, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my observant business goose. To begin, I'm going to need you to close your eyes and to reopen the whimsical portion of your subconscious boarded up once the horrors of the adult world evicted any sense of wonder and possibility. Once freed, imagine the lush, pulsing greenery of an ancient forest so dense the trees block any other sight. Which is concerning, because right now all we could hear is the distant sound of something very large running in our direction. We are currently in the land of giants, known as the Xiangquang Plateau, ruled by a king known as Kun Choyang. And like many a king in many a legend, he's about to pick a fight. According to local legend, that fight was not an easy one, for you see, Kun Choyang went toe-to-toe with the Darth Vader-esque king, Chow and Ka, who played by his own rules, each more sinister than the last. Well, from what we can hear, it sounds like all hell is breaking loose and the ground is about to collapse from underneath us. I would recommend running ourselves, but where? I, too, have never been here before, and it just might be time to panic. As we attempt to decide which direction to head, the thunderous sounds have stopped. Kun Choyang was victorious, eventually. To celebrate this tiresome battle, he proposed a drink. Well, actually, many a drink. So much rice wine was in order that massive stone jars were carved out for the brewing and storing process, with the largest jars being reserved for the most important giants, and the biggest jar of all for the king himself. Naturally. Now, if you will, open your eyes and join me back in the real world, where, believe it or not, the Xiangquang Plateau really exists. And the thousands of stone jars dotting the landscape? Yeah, they too exist, hugging the outskirts of a remote town called Ponsavan. And for my fellow geographically challenged Americans who are wondering if the names of these places are spelled the way they sound and where this could all be exactly, no, I had to look up the pronunciations of everything, and thank God I did, because, wow, Laotian words are hard. And please, everyone, imagine China. Wonderful. We've done this before, so bust out your drawing of the peninsula underneath it. Thank you. Point to the 5 countries that are inside, starting with Myanmar at 12 o'clock. Move a smidge clockwise, and voila, we have Laos, which kind of resembles a comma. At the very top, is Poncevan. And if you want to see these jars for yourself, you're in luck. Drop whatever beverage you're holding right now and tap on today's post. There you will see a photo of a young Buddhist monk leaning against one. He looks to be a preteen maybe, so that stone jar is, I'd say, 4 feet tall or so. And if you swipe past this photo to the next, you'll see a grown-ass woman on her tiptoes doing her very best to peek inside another jar that's easily 6 feet in height. Are you curious as to what may be inside? And why they're here? Of course you are. How could anyone resist a good hole? Well, I have good news and bad news. Here's the good news. Kinda. As reported by Michelle Starr of Science Alert, since the 1930s, quote, scientists have debated their use, often unable to get closer to the jars due to the 80 million undetonated cluster bombs that still lie scattered across the plain, dropped by the United States during the 1960s Laotian Civil War, end quote. Well, round of sarcastic applause for my home country and a genuine round of applause for the hundreds of humans and their trained African giant-pouched rats who for decades, inch by inch, risked their lives to clear yet another embarrassing chapter of American foreign policy. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, girl, after this episode, scroll on back to episode 140 and 220. Prepare to be amazed and to cry a little. Now, what I mean to say, the good news, is that a chunk of these undetonated cluster bombs have been cleared, making way for tourists and researchers alike to investigate. The bad news, though, not only tourists and researchers have made their way to Poncevan. The majority of the jars in the closest vicinity to town are empty, suggesting theft and tampering. If we want to solve the Plain of Jars mystery, we need to head deep into that forest. The one where Kun Choyang went toe-to-toe with Chow and Ka. So please, wear as much mosquito repellent as you can possibly smear upon yourself and join me, will you, in the dry seasons of 2022 through 2024, and over the shoulders of archaeologist Nicholas Scopel of James Cook University and 14 additional study co-authors from the university and the Lao Department of Heritage, some 70 kilometers or 43 miles northeast of Poncevan. This far inland, the team actually did discover a giant, just not in the way you think. Measuring over 4 feet high and more than 6.5 feet wide, one of the largest jars yet was sitting and waiting to be excavated for the first time. Let's get into it. Quote, excavation of the contents of Jar 1 revealed a substantial volume of human bone, both disarticulated and closely associated. The concentration of craniofacial elements, particularly around the jar edges, and the bundles of long bones, suggest deliberate grouping. Skeletal elements show differing representativeness. Estimates for the minimum number of individuals present vary from 14, the total number of left humerus, to 19, number of right femur and skulls, with the dentition providing the highest estimate of 37, end quote, from the study so gothly titled The Death Jar, a new mortuary tradition at the Plain of Jars, Lao PDR. My very living business goose, that's a fancy way of saying they found right femurs and skulls from 19 people in total, but teeth from 37 people in total, including children and adults. So it's very possible this burial jar contains up to 37 people. And what's definitive may leave your own jaw on the floor. Quote, the disarticulation of many of the sets of bones inside the newfound jar suggests they were interred there in a secondary burial after the bodies had partially decomposed elsewhere, possibly in smaller jars, several of which were found a short distance away. Quote within a quote, maybe they used those smaller stone jars to distill the bodies. So when someone died, they might have put the body in there so all the flesh came off. They then took the bones and they put them in this big jar. So it's almost like a crypt, end quote. Nicholas Scopel suggested to Tom Metcalf of Science News. Yeah, this funerary practice involves the loving and painstaking process of moving remains from jar to jar until the bones can join the rest of the family. This hypothesis is further supported by radiocarbon dating that you need to sit the fuck down for. In addition to testing several bones, the researchers also found 20 glass beads, 5 stone slabs, pottery shards, a small bell, and an iron knife within the pile. The beads were swabbed as well, and guess what? After all the clickety-clack calculations were made, the results showed that the remains and offerings were added to the jar over 270 years, between 890 and 1160 CE. Not only is that wild, but the analysis of the beads' composition revealed that they were made of materials originating from South India, and Mesopotamia. Y'all, Mesopotamia spans modern-day Iraq, eastern Syria, southeastern Turkey, and Kuwait. This means the people of Laos, well over 1,000 years ago, were trading with regions in an entirely different continent. This discovery is an absolute first, so please give a well-deserved round of applause because I can't imagine logistics of that in 890. Now, it's not clear exactly whether this proposed ritual was common practice across the entire plain of jars or unique to this location, but if so, that may also help explain why so many jars are empty, in addition to possible vandalism. This may also help explain the origins of some contemporary funerary practices. As reported by Mark Milligan in the February 2021 issue of Heritage Daily Archaeology News, you know the one, for Thai, Cambodian, and Lao royalty, quote, "The corpse of the deceased is placed into an urn during the early stages of the funeral rites, at which time the soul of the deceased is believed to be undergoing gradual transformation from the earthly to the spiritual world. The ritual decomposition is later followed by cremation and secondary burial." End quote. That sounds familiar. Which means the next step is to return to these remote and quite honestly dangerous locations for more chemical and anthropological analysis. We still need to know who these bones belong to, how they lived, and their exact relationships. So watch these holes. More is about to come out of them. After the break, we're leaving thousands of stone containers in Laos for a 3D printed device in Spain with massive ambitions. But don't worry, there's still body parts inside this one. An interdisciplinary collaboration between no less than 7 research centers has created a new technology that can maintain the viability of retinas even hours after being displaced from a body. This is a dramatic step towards working eye transplants. So, how? How did they do this? Don't blink and stay tuned.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Hear that? That's now Crispy and McCrispy strips meeting Creamy Caesar sauce. Sounds extra crispy. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
And we're back. We are so back. And my friends, I have to admit, lately, on a number of occasions, I've asked you to close your eyes and to take a deep breath as I guide you through some god-awful imagined situation that turned out to be a very real event. Well, what could I say but I'm sorry. Not for doing so, but for doing so again. So please, if you would, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and transport yourself back, way back to a time most Americans consciously ignore, 2021. You look adorable in your hard hat and unfathomably bright yellow safety vest because you are what at the time society called an essential worker. You're an electrical engineer and lines person for the city of Arkansas, and today you're assisting 46-year-old military veteran Aaron James. Despite following all precautions and OSHA safety rules, well, we're human, which means shit happens. One of the exposed wires around us is still live, unbeknownst to Aaron, whose face just grazed its tip, and what followed occurred in tenths of a second. A 7,200-volt electric shock pulsed through his head, leaving him unconscious, and with the loss of his left eye, his entire nose and lips, front teeth, left cheek area, and the flesh of his chin down to the bone. Thanks to you, fellow teammates and Good Samaritans, Aaron was stabilized by first responders called to the scene, of which you can open your eyes and exit. That was intense, I know, but Aaron lived, and for the next 2 years, he rebuilt his life, which included revolutionary procedures never attempted before on a medical patient. One of them was a surgery lasting approximately 21 hours and a team of more than 140 surgeons, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, led by Eduardo de Rodriguez, director of the Face Transplant Program, the Helen L. Kimmel Professor of Reconstructive Plastic Surgery, and chair of the Hans-Georg Weiss Department of Plastic Surgery at NYU Langone. Damn. According to the NYU Langone 2023 press release on the surgery, prior to the massive surgery, Texas surgeons were forced to remove James's left eye due to severe pain. But Dr. Rodriguez and his team, quote, recommended that the optic nerve be cut as close to the eyeball as possible to preserve as much nerve length to maximize reconstructive options, including the hope of a potential transplant later, end quote. Eduardo and the gang were spot on. 3 months later, Aaron received an eye from, quote, a young man in his 30s who came from a family that strongly supports organ donation. He, in support of his family, generously donated tissues leading to the successful face and eye transplant, but also saved 3 other individuals between the ages of 20 and 70, donating his kidneys, liver, and pancreas, end quote, said Leonard Aiken, RN, MA, ANP, President and CEO of Live On New York, in that same press release that's just full of overachieving, life-saving nerds. My God. My equally achieving business goose, Aaron was the recipient of the world's first whole eye and partial face transplant, which in itself is earth-shattering good news. And believe it or not, a year later in 2024, that news got even better. During the surgery, the medical staff attempted another world first by injecting stem cells into a human optic nerve, all in hopes to enhance nerve regeneration. And 2, they performed what's called perforation. Long, watery process short, this involves mainlining nutrition and blood flow to tissue after the supply has been cut off. Since the surgery, the team held their own breath and crossed their fingers for a milestone test scheduled for 2024, an electroretinography, which measures the retina's electrical response to light. Wow, what the fuck happened? Drumroll, please. Thank you in the back. Aaron is still blind in that left eye, meaning the connections running from the back of the eye towards the brain had withered before they could be reconnected. But, and big but here, millions of neurons, including photoreceptors called cones and rods inside that eye, were active. They and the retina survived the transplant thanks to perfusion. This case shook the ophthalmological world and inspired the next big question. What if this wasn't a one-off miracle? What if a device was created to ensure every donated eye had its retina intact? Can we make this the standard? Now, at this point, you may be asking why it's not the standard to begin with, which is a great question. Let's just say the retina is a needy bitch, and I say that with the most amount of love possible. For you see, she has a lot going on and needs the support. The retina is an uber-delicate, light-sensitive layer of tissue at the back of the eye, made up of millions of photoreceptors, glial cells for structural support, vascular cells, and 10 distinct additional cell layers that convert light into electrical signals for the brain. It burns through oxygen at a rate most other tissues would consider frankly excessive. And the second that oxygen supply gets cut off, even briefly, it starts dying. Fast. So the goal here is to keep that oxygen flowing even after the eye has detached from a body. On one hand, this is giving Frankenstein, but on the other, it's literally giving life. And it would be a massive step towards whole eye transplants. This undertaking would take an immense team led by someone with immense huevos. Luckily, for us, that team exists. So join me, will you, with the team leader, Dr. Pia Cosma of the Centre de Regulació Genòmica, nailed it, in Barcelona, alongside 6 additional eyeball nerds from 6 additional research centers, including the Association for the Advancement of Tissue Engineering and Cell-Based Technologies and Therapies in Portugal, Aferetica in Italy, and King's College London in the UK. Together, they have joined forces to create Eyes in a Care Box. A care box you need to see to believe. So drop whatever body part you're holding right now and pick up your phone to tap on today's post. Swipe past all the stone jars and bones and you'll see their creation. I'll give you a sec. Yeah, you never received one of these at camp. This baby looks like a tiny square submarine with a porthole, kind of like what deep-sea researchers pilot. And on the inside is where the magic happens. The donated eye is placed on a flat surface, where the needle, the width of an eyelash, gets threaded directly into the eye's main blood vessel, the old ophthalmic artery, if you will. Once inserted, the box pumps a steady oxygen-rich fluid through that artery at a rate of about 0.5 milliliter a minute, essentially replicating a heartbeat. The sealed door keeps pressure and temperature steady, and a drainage system lets the fluid flow out the other side in a continuous loop. In sum, it is life support for an eyeball, alone, in a box. And at this point, you may be wondering a number of things right now, but I'm just going to pick out the questions, does it work? And, oh God, does that mean they had to test it? Yes, and yes. Let's get into it. Join me, will you, outside the doors of a local slaughterhouse in Mafrica, Manresa, Spain. Here, a lucky member of the team received several dozen eyes removed from heroic pigs just a wee 2.5 hours ago. They were packed on ice and returned to the lab, whereupon the team could show the world how exactly the care of the care box does its caring. According to the team's study, aptly called Retinal Resuscitation in Postmortem Eyes, they first perfused the eyes with a colored material and then scanned them with a micro-CT machine. Using an AI model specifically to trace and reconstruct vascular networks, they confirmed that in roughly 90% of properly cannulated eyes, aka when the needle is correctly positioned, allowing for the delivery of that sweet, sweet fluid, that fluid was reaching every corner of the eye, all the way down to individual capillaries. 90%. So, high five everyone, the care can be delivered. So now the million-dollar question remains, will it keep retinas viable? To test this, the team stored half of the pig eyes outside the care box in an area chilled to 39 degrees Fahrenheit, while the rest received the special treatment. After a wee 24 hours, the eyes who were merely refrigerated had deteriorated retinas, while the retinas kept in the care box with steady perfusion stayed significantly healthier. When given the old electroretinography test, girl, the results were even more uplifting. Quote, the team found that 15 out of the 36 perfused pig eyes still generated light responses in the device, in some cases for up to 10 hours after death. When they switched the perfusion off, the signal faded, a strong sign that it was the oxygenated flow keeping the retina alive and responsive. End quote from Tom Leslie of IFL Science. Once again, high fives for everyone. Thanks to this machine, some retinas kept responding for up to 10 hours after death. One eye kept going for 12. This is extraordinary. And I think I know what you're thinking right about now. I bet you're thinking, Jill, this is extraordinary for a number of reasons, but please, Just get to the part where they do the thing with the human eyes. Can we just get to that and get it over with? I know it's coming. Okay, I understand, yes. Let's run through that with as much joy and the fewest extreme details as possible. I'm happy to report 12 human eyes were obtained from 6 donors, and they too were divided so that one eye from each pair went into the box, while the other was left outside in the refrigerated area. As with the animals' retinas, the human retinas that received treatment were far healthier. That is a raging success, only hampered by one thing: our nemesis, time. Because the human eyes arrived 6 to 10 hours after death, the researchers did not perform an electroretinography. So unfortunately, we don't know if they retained light responses similar to those seen in the pig experiments. This has yet to be tested, so watch this space. No pun intended. Also, as reported by Jessica Hamzalo of MIT Technology, hi Jessica, Dr. Cosma and the gang hope that their device could offer scientists a new way to study eye treatments, especially one that doesn't involve experimenting on animals. And they hope that with some improvements, this device might provide a way to maintain and revive donated human eyes. The team is actually thinking outside the care box, if you will, by expanding it, possibly with a portable surgery room to, quote, help get around the practical limitations of perfusing an eye in the smallest amount of time post-mortem as possible, end quote, from IFL. In the meantime, as this team carries on, head held high, other nerds hot for peepers are tackling the other half of this challenge, ensuring that the optic nerve can be wired back to the recipient's own brain, so all the information from the retina can be passed on. Y'all, this shit is hard, but we're making progress. And thank you for listening, rating, subscribing, following, telling your friends about these jars in a far-off land that have so many bodies in them. Yeah. And say it with a big smile. And after that, to say how so many people will have their vision back. We just have to fix the whole optic nerve thing. That's not a problem. An eye-opening thanks to the folks over at Airwave Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you'll love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.